AVC, what's up? It's me, yours truly. I am back to post a quick video here. Gonna do a what's been spinning video. This is just kind of going through kind of all the stuff I've been spinning over the past however many weeks it's been or whatever. But yeah, just want to kind of share what I've been spinning. And as always, the things that I share in what's been spinning are actually albums that I set and listened to from start to finish, and not just the albums that maybe I poked a song here or there and that type of thing. So let's kind of dive right into it. Quite a bit, so I may not get into too much detail on everything, but start off here with one that everyone knows, Def Leppard, Hysteria. Always a great album to go revisit. Just an absolute beautiful piece of music is the way I like to describe this album. I know when they set out to make this, kind of the work they were doing with Mutt when they brought him in later, but they were trying to go for, they said, the rock version of Thriller is what they were trying to do, and I think they actually did it. I mean, everything on that album is fantastic. It was kind of stupid coming out with Women as the initial single on that album, but it eventually broke and did what it was supposed to do. Next year, Them Changes by Buddy Miles. Another classic one I hadn't spun in quite some time. This is Buddy's release from 1970. This is a 2014 Music on Vinyl reissue. Sounds fantastic. Just a beautiful, beautiful pressing of this. And of course it has that song Them Changes, which he went on to do later with Band of Gypsies with Jimi Hendrix. But yeah, cool album. Definitely one of those ones that just kind of shows why Buddy was the cool cat that he was. Love that album cover. Next, from 2002, we got Not a Surf. This is Let Go. Definitely my favorite album by them. Also has my favorite song by them, which is Blonde on Blonde. So if you're not familiar with them, definitely check that song out. Love that album cover too. Really, really cool use of color there. But so that was a good spin. 2008 release by Brett Denon. This is Hope for the Hopeless. Kind of a singer-songwriter type of thing. One of those artists that kind of has a voice where you kind of like it or you probably don't. There's probably not a lot of in-between with his kind of high-pitched, somewhat nasally kind of voice. But a lot of great songs on here, like San Francisco, When She's Gone. But my favorite track by him, period, which is Ain't Gonna Lose You. That was the first song that I heard by him that brought me to this album and really kind of brought me to him as an artist. So I recommend checking that song out if you haven't heard that before. And like I said, if you're a singer-songwriter type, you'll definitely probably love that album. Always good to go back to the legends. Kiss, just saw them about a month or so ago. Animalize, Heaven's on Fire, just all that great 80s Kiss. So it was great giving that a spin. Nice OG press with the hype sticker there. And spun this yesterday. It's from 1988. This is Vixen, one of the ladies that were kind of holding the place in the whole glam hard rock thing. And this is just, great album that really defines their sound and that time period and everything else, with awesome songs like, Edge of a Broken Heart, Crying, and a couple other different things on here. But yeah, I mean, absolutely love it, especially Edge of a Broken Heart. That's one of my favorite ladies, glam ladies, songs from that time period. Really, really cool stuff. So that was a fun listen. And kind of staying in that glam phase, a little Warrant, Cherry Pie. Of course, you guys know this album all too well. Cherry Pie, I Saw Red, Uncle Tom's Cabin, just a lot of fantastic tracks on that. So that was a great revisit. And got this about 2 weeks ago and finally got around to listening to it yesterday. Shania Twain's Greatest Hits. A really cool 2 LP set that covers most of the hits that you would want by her. Forever for Always, Come On Over, Man, I Feel Like a Woman, You're Still the One, on and on and on. And she was a gigantic seller, back in the 90s and I guess early 2000s as well. And it's kind of interesting too, because when you go back and look at her numbers and what she sold, again, she was freaking huge, and she clobbered a lot of bands that you never would even think that Shania Twain is outselling blah blah blah, but she was. And it's kind of interesting because what you really do kind of sense listening to this today is like, you see exactly how Taylor Swift is getting and going where she's going. Like, this really was an earlier version of the Taylor Swift formula, if you will. Like, taking that country but making it very, very pop, and just kind of that whole thing. It's like it makes sense now how Shania was selling so big. Or I say, Taylor makes Shania make sense, and Shania makes Taylor make sense. I put it that way. Obviously, since Shania Twain came first, but yeah, it was just really interesting listening to it, and just in the time period of Taylor, and those thoughts just kind of came to mind. But blah blah blah. We move right on to Pantera, Far Beyond Driven. Another fantastic classic piece. Definitely probably the Pantera album that's most dear to me, even though it might not be my absolute favorite. This was the album that brought me to Pantera, because the first song that I ever heard by them was 5 Minutes Alone, and that was the one that just got me like, who is this band? And then of course, I'm Broken, Becoming, I mean, on and on and on. Planet Caravan, just awesome classic stuff. And as you can see, there's a beautiful OG copy in the shrink with the hype and everything. One of the early albums that I bought in my collection. Another great one here from 1976, an awesome classic rock album, Moxy. Simply put, if you're not familiar with this particular album, just imagine Led Zeppelin and Rush got together and had a baby. This album by Moxy is what that baby would sound and be like. A lot of Getty type of vocals, a lot of here and there different Zeppelin type of riffs, but just a fantastic album. I spun that yesterday when I was at the shop, and always a great one to go revisit. Little Santana, 1968, San Francisco. This is actually an unofficial pressing that a friend sent me as VCLT about a year ago, actually, and just kind of a pretty cool live recording. Not the absolute best recording, but it's definitely something that's just a little bit different than the same Santana stuff that you hear all the time. Soul Sacrifice and a lot of different melody things on here. So that was kind of just a good revisit. I hadn't spun that in a while. And MoFi just did a release of this, and I picked it up, but of course I'm not going to open it because that's the weird stuff that we collectors do, right? And so I went back and gave the OG a spin. Of course, it's Run DMC, King of Rock, just one of the early classics of hip hop back in 1985. Stuff like Rock the House, King of Rock, You Talk Too Much, Can You Rock It Like This, You're Blind, If You Can't See, You Need to Wear Sunglasses Like DMC. Just, awesome old school hip hop right there. And another album that just never loses its punch with me at all, Billy Squire, Don't Say No. This album just does not get the credit it deserves. I'm sorry. Just such a great rock, a pop rock, however you want to call it, album, but just great songs on it. It's really all you can say. Great songs. Like opening up with In the Dark, which in my personal opinion is probably one of the top 50 most underrated rock songs like ever. Again, I'm sure some people hate it, don't think anything about Billy Squire, whatever else, but In the Dark is just a perfect hard rock pop mixture, and he freaking kills it on that track. Definitely my favorite song by him. But then he goes right into The Stroke, My Kind of Lover, You Don't Know What I Like, and then you flip over to side B, Lonely, opens up with Lonely Is the Night. This is a bad freaking album right here. Billy freaking killed it on this one. And it really shows too, because this is one of those albums that any time we get it in the shop, it's not a crazy expensive album at all, but as soon as we get one, it flies off the shelf. And there's a good reason why. So love that album. You see that in a lot of what's been spinning videos for me. Little Maiden, threw on Peace of Mind the other day. Just one I hadn't spun in a little while, so just wanted to, any of the old school Maiden is always good to dive into. And Wham Fantastic from 1983, gave this a spin the other day, and I actually threw this on after watching the documentary. I think it's on Netflix or something. I think it's been there for a while. I never watched it. and it was such a great documentary. And the coolest thing about it was, I mean, yeah, you get to see kind of George Michael in his early days and him developing and all of that, but really kind of nothing that's new with George Michael. The thing that impressed me the most was learning about my boy here. I mean, like the amount of respect that I gained for him watching that documentary was just absolutely unbelievable. Like when you talk about a guy who, you know, knows what it means to be a friend, like having his friends back, you know, never putting himself before the people that he's close to and all of that, like the class and the level of humbleness, if you will, and just everything else. But my level of respect for him just shot so far through the roof, it's not even funny. It was just such a great thing to, you know, again, we all have seen and kind of heard the George Michael story so much. He deserves a ton. So if you haven't seen that documentary, go watch it and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But really, really fun album to revisit. One of my favorite songs by Wham on here, which is Bad Boys. Of course, Wham Rap is on here, which I can't really stand, but that was one of their initial hits when they were coming up. And then Young Guns, of course, is on here too. But yeah, Bad Boys is definitely my favorite song off of that album. And went back and revisited a little bit Ramones, Animal Boys, kind of some of their later stuff from '86, which I really like a lot of that later '80s Ramones stuff. And of course on here you have the song like Somebody Put Something in My Drink, and one of my favorite songs by the Ramones, probably one of my top 5 songs by them, My Brain Is Hanging Upside Down. Love that song. So another great listen there. Good classic rock listen here too. You know, Kinks' greatest hits, just all the great stuff you would want by them. You know, Lola, All Day, All the Night. You know, the end till the end of the day. You Really Got Me. Just on and on and on. Just that classic distorted guitar sound that they had. That's a great album there. Again, one of the first albums I bought when I first started collecting, so that's been with me for a while. Naked Eyes. This is their release from 1983. Another one of those legendary kind of new wave bands from the early 80s. Of course, the 2 big hits off of here is Always Something There to Remind Me, which was a hit song I kind of like, but it's also one of those songs that gets on my nerves a little bit. One of those new wave hits that I just like, I could do without hearing again, but great song. And then Promises, Promises, which is my absolute jam off of this album. I mean, that's a song I never get tired of listening to. But it's really interesting because if you go through and listen to this album from front to back, which I've always kind of said this, it's totally new wave, but you can definitely tell those guys grew up listening to a lot of funk albums, because there is so much, I'm not going to say hidden funks, but just little specks of these very, very funky type of grooves that they insert into these very popish, new wave-ish songs. And if you kind of have that in mind as you go through and listen to the album, like I said, you just kind of know in your hearts of hearts, these guys grew up listening to Parliament and Funkadelic and Sly and the Family Stone, and I have no idea, like I've never heard them do an interview or anything, but just from what they wrote, you can kind of tell that had to be part of their musical diet growing up. Firehouse, self-titled. This is their release from 1990. And of course, you know, Don't Treat Me Bad, Love of a Lifetime, 2 gigantic hits off of this. But yeah, just, you know, some of that great 90s kind of, I don't know if you call it, I guess it goes under glam, but really kind of a little more hard rockish. But yeah, another great one. Hadn't spun that in a while. That was a good spin. UTFO, just one of my early favorite hip hop bands, you know, which really kind of came out during the whole break dancing time. You know, great songs like Leader of the Pack, Bite Me, Calling Her a Crab, Beats and Rhymes, Roxanne, of course, which is a gigantic hit off of here, The Real Roxanne, Lisa Lips, just on and on and on. But man, just some of my early memories as a kid goes back to UTFO. Sorry about that, let me turn this off. Oh, you have like what, 4 more here? Heaven Up There, Echo and the Bunnymen. Again, another classic there from the early 80s. I don't know as much to say about this album. I mean, it's kind of Echo and the Bunnymen. Like I said, you guys kind of know them. Just one of those classic early 80s bands. Hadn't spun that in a while. Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell 2. Just another masterpiece. I mean, this is one of those albums where I feel like you have to make sure you pause to give it the credit it deserves. Because you'll have songs like, I'll Do Anything for Love, but I Won't Do That. And for a lot of people, I think when they talk about that song, when they mention it, it's kind of a cliche thing, right? It's kind of like some silliness, 80s cliche, I'll do anything for love, but I won't do that, or whatever else. But if you really go back and study that song and look at what Meatloaf did, and really kind of the entire album, and I'm talking specifically about that song, it's just, that really is a kind of a musical masterpiece. When you look at all of the elements that he brought together to put that song, it's kind of a work of art. It really is. And, this whole album really kind of displays that. It's just a fantastic, just powerhouse of a, rock album that's bringing kind of classical and operatic type of soars to it and things like that. I mean, just really, really awesome. And it was great to give that a listen a couple weeks ago, actually. And then, of course, Peter Gabriel. And this is his release from 1982, the one I usually refer to as Mask. Of course, on here, you have Shock the Monkey, Lay Your Hands on Me. I Have the Touch. Just one of his number of his great early albums when he first went solo. And the last 3 here, you have Rat, Dancing on the Cover. Of course, this classic. Dance, Drive Me Crazy, Slip of the Lip, Body Talk. Just another great album from one of the bands that really kind of ruled that early mid-80s, and that's from 1986. And one of my classics that I listen to very frequently, Sammy Hagar, VOA. Still definitely my favorite Sammy Hagar album. I Can't Drive 55, Swept Away, which is a fantastic track. Rock Is in My Blood, Two Sides of Love. I mean, another just killer kind of, I guess, B-side track on this album. But never get tired of listening to this one. It's like this one and Billy Idol's Rebel Yell were 2 of the albums that I just grew up playing non-stop. And definitely holds a special place. And last but not least, a little more Pantera. I mean, being still here. This is from their 2000 release. So again, just another one of those, Pantera, I don't need to say anything else about it. Great stuff on here, and just that Revolution Is My Name, probably my favorite song off of here. But yeah, just another fantastic piece by the legends themselves. So there you go, VC. Actually, there's 2 more things I could show here, because I did listen to a couple CDs. Jillian Welch, Revival. Another great artist, which I wish they would get more of her stuff pressed on vinyl. Kind of a, I don't know, easiest way to describe her is if you really liked the Oh Brother Where Art Thou soundtrack and that type of, Southern, whatever you want to call it. She actually did a couple of tracks on that album, and that's her style across the board. So, definitely pick up some of her stuff. And that album is Revival, which is fantastic. And then I did also throw in a little Billy Idol's Greatest Hits and had to listen to that as well. So all the great stuff that makes Billy the awesome legend that he is. So there you go, VC. That's what's been spinning over the past few weeks or whatever. So as always, let me know what you think. I know this video ran a little bit long, but we will talk to you soon. All right, take care, guys.